tell us your story, your startup story. What is what is your company about? What are the opportunities you saw, and what are the challenges you faced? So, Shantanu, do you want to start?
Yeah, thanks, Abhishek. EduCom started in 1995, and the two major problems that we seek to solve in India, one of them is the problem of quality of education, which is, well, in a certain manner, a fairly generic problem worldwide, and I think societies across the world haven't really understood how to help kids learn more efficiently. In India, the problem is more acute because the whole education ecosystem is kind of fairly under-resourced. So one of the things we look at is how to solve the problem of education quality. The other issue is simply access to education. About 140 million kids in India don't go to school. High enrollment rates in higher education are probably one of the lowest in the world, 3.6%. There's a 40% dropout rate in students who don't go from grade 8 and go all the way up to grade 12. So many, many different challenges, and they are made more acute by the fact that the entire education ecosystem itself is so big and large. The kind of numbers you're dealing with in India are probably you don't see in most other countries across the world. But what makes it an interesting business is that the middle class of India is willing to pay for education. There's been a lot of research on how much they're willing to pay, and the conclusion of almost all of these research studies is that they're willing to outlay a disproportionate amount of their personal capital to ensure that their kids succeed in school. So we saw that as a big opportunity and built a business around it. Today, EduComp does many different things in education. I think we're fairly unique even globally that we are an education ecosystem company taking advantage of the huge cross-selling opportunities amongst different parts of the education supply chain. So we are the largest preschool company in India. We run 800 kindergarten schools. We run approximately 50 high schools catering to about 25,000 students. We run 7 colleges. We run about 200 points of presence in the whole area of vocational education and training. We are India's largest developer and licensor of educational content, which we sell to private schools in India. We have a very successful product called Smart Class that currently reaches about 3.1 million students. We work very closely in partnership with the government of India to help improve quality of government schools. We have about 15,000 computer labs in about 15 states in India seeking to provide digital content to rural kids to help them learn better. We are the largest professional development company in India, and we also have an emerging presence in the whole area of e-learning and internet with serving about 2.5 million users who visit our internet sites. So many different things in education, but clearly focused at two major areas, solving the problem of education quality as well as access to education. And clearly the roadmap to solving this problem is it's a much bigger problem than only EduCom can solve. We need many, many different entrepreneurial ventures to do it. The good news is that the government of India, at least the good news for private entrepreneurs like myself, is that the government of India is clearly not able to solve this problem. So this problem has to be in some shape or form solved through using private capital to come up with more innovative solutions to solve the larger problem of education in India.
Okay. Samir?
Yeah, I think we are in the cable company, so it's like what we saw in India was that India is the second largest television market, predominantly cable, and DTH has just come in. So it's it's an analog market getting digital right now. So it's like what the US went in 1990s is happening in India today. The market is very large. We're second largest to China. We're larger than the US as far as number of homes go. India itself, if you really look at it, we sold about 1 million television sets a month. We sell about 12 million TV sets a month. So it's growing rapidly. And I think with economic development, the number of homes which are likely to have television likely to go up 200 million homes. So I think what we saw, and I come from a television background, so we launched channels. I've launched about 6 or 7 channels in the last 4 to 5 years. And what we saw that the media was really transforming itself in the last 5 or 7 years. We had the first private channel come in 91 when Z and Star came in. And media has really worked. So, the next phase was, if you look at, was the distribution. And so that was an opportunity. And we had, cable in India was really pop-mom shops. And the story was very clearly, you saw the opportunity, you saw the scale, and the idea was then to begin the consolidation story. So we, in 3 years, we started the company in 2007, and in 3 years, as far as number of homes go, became the largest cable company in India. And so I think that was the opportunity. Opportunity was really to say it's a large market. India could go the US way, and frankly, saw the way where Comcast has grown. And the thing was that India was changing rapidly to digitalization. So the story was really to be a very large cable company and to be a cable company with a difference. And largely we did another unique thing, which is one of its kind. We did a joint venture with Star, which is Rupert Murdoch, really do a Star Den JV, where we distribute content of all Star channels in India itself. So, you know, I think the story is consolidation, story is scale, and really go where the global, you know, economies and global, you know, the US has gone, and say, will India head that way? And I think that was really the story that we drove.
I have a great news about financial services, which is being bombarded till now. So it's not macro, it is micro. So the question, like, because how did I get into this business? How did I see an opportunity? So I never saw an opportunity. I never had an intention of starting a business. I just started an intervention. Spandana was not a mission or vision-driven intervention. It was a very spontaneous and emotional decision that helped me to, like, when I started, it was not even a business. Like, it was just an intervention. So it just happened to meet one rag picker. I used to work for an NGO. This NGO used to help poor people in building houses and also imparting vocational training and all that. So while working with that NGO, it happened to see one rag picker going on the street. Like, because this lady was going on the road with a push cart, and like she was sweating, loudly shouting, and carrying about 3-4 months baby. It was very miserable to look at her face. I had some scrap to sell her. Like, we unpacked, like we were setting up a new office, called her and asked a few questions about the business. She said the business itself is very remunerative because people do not understand the value of the scrap. When asked about how much she earns in a day, she said that she will earn about 60 rupees, but she is left with only 20 rupees. How? She said the card that she was using was not her own. She was paying about 10 rupees for the car towards rent. And she also said that every morning, like, she used to borrow 270 and she was paying about 300 rupees, 30 rupees towards interest, and a loan of 270, and she was left with 20 rupees. And like, because almost 20 days in a month, like, it was a single meal that the whole family was living with. So it was very miserable. And I asked her one question: do you know how much rent that you paid for the cart? She said it is 10 rupees per day, 300 rupees per month. Beyond that, I don't know. I calculated and told her that, like, it's more than 40,000, and what is the cost of the cart? She said it cost 1,500 rupees. She got shocked when she came to know that she paid 40,000 rupees rent for a cart, which costs only 1,500 rupees. And I did calculate, like, the interest that she paid, and if a 270 rupee loan, which is more than 100,000 rupees, she really got shocked. I told her that had you started your business with your own capital of 2,000 rupees 14 years back, you should have been left with like 150,000 rupees today. But where are you? Like, because you are just fasting, you had only one meal. And she said, like, because we are nomadics, who will give us like 2,000 rupee loan? We don't have a place to live in, like, because who will trust us? And like, it was very, very emotional decision. So from that organization, I said that, okay, let me give you 2,000. And asked, how do you want to spend? She said, like, I will buy a cart and I will use the balance as a capital. So I gave her 2,000 rupees. She invested 1,500 rupees to buy the cart, and 500 rupees started using as a capital. And from next day onwards, she came to our office and she started paying 10 rupees. And as she was not required to pay the 30 rupees to the money lender, the 20 rupee profit went up to 50. It was so significant, it was a big jump, and she got excited. She told every other rag picker, vegetable vendor and fruit vendor that, like, this lady gave me the 2,000 rupee loan. Next morning, it was a tragic scene. So 300 members, like, because they were in front of the office, and the house owner was shouting loudly saying that, what nonsense are you making? You said that, like, 5 of you will sit and work in a very decent manner. You don't understand about these people. They observe things in the daytime and they steal during the night time. Who are you bringing to my house? And he gave a big complaint to my boss, who sits in a different place. The boss came and asked, what nonsense are you creating? I said, I have not created any nonsense. Like, we are into developmental work. We have been debating for so long on sustainable and significant impact, which is scalable in a country like India, and we never found a solution. Here seems to be a kind of solution. 1, there is a significant impact. 2, it appears to be sustainable because money is coming back. People are willing to pay interest because they are paying exorbitant interest rates. And again, there is huge demand for this kind of activity. So like that time when I started, like because I never knew like how to really understand the market side to calculate the market size and all that, but today at least like I understand. It took 6, like because started with that lady, and again like had no clue, like because 300 women every day coming and asking me for money. I had no money, so we started doing some local fundraising campaign. We borrowed idea from the same rag picker. We went to door and collected old newspaper. We sold that newspaper, and that is how the initial loans were given. So it took like 8 months for me to get some 200,000 rupee loan from an apex organization based out of Ahmedabad. And I went to few banks, and like because they said, they laughed at me. You are 29 years old, you don't understand anything. You are saying that you want to give loans to poor people, like because we don't understand banking. So you understand banking, like because you are still saying that you will collect back money and pay us back. Like it never worked out. So but like because patience was always there, and like because we continue to depend on small organizations, and like because we continued our work. But again today I understand the market size. Like it is about 30 crore, 300 million households who require microfinance in India, and like if you go global, it's about 1 billion households who require microfinance services. Within India, like it is a 9,000 crore billion market, it is 250 billion market in India, and like because 30 crore means it's 150 crore people who need microfinance services. And starting from there with one lady, and with the first loan of 200,000, like during the last 12 years, first 3 years, there was nothing. So like because there were myths about microfinance industry, that like whether microfinance is sustainable, because like it's serving poor people, like because loans are very small, operating cost is very high, people are dependent on grants, scalability, sustainability, they were all questions. So the bankers were still hesitant, and they were suspicious, they were skeptical whether to really get there or not. But again, like because the first 3 years from Spandana, we really spent, like because it was managing like a middle class household. So like because we have really rewrote all the business rules. Like we thought we started thinking out of the box, and like we made processes very simple, like because we believed in being very client oriented and employee oriented. So like because of which we are able to create like extremely high benchmarks in the industry. There is a myth that it takes 5 years to break even. Like when we were rated by MCREL, they told us that we broke even in the 6 months itself, and we were the highest profit making microfinance organization in India. So as a result, like today we are able to grow to a scale wherein like so far we have given loans to over 4 million households, which is like 20 million people, benefiting 20 million people. And we have a task force of 12,000, and we have operations in 12 states. And cumulatively we disbursed about 12,500 crores. It's 125,000 million rupees, close to like $4 billion that we disbursed. And this is all collateral free. We don't take any collateral from our borrowers, and similarly we don't offer any collateral to our bankers. This is a completely trust based kind of lending. And as you know, like because it is very famous in microfinance, but of course it took me 6 months for me to understand that whatever that I was trying to do is called as microfinance in the larger world. So today Spandana is $1 billion, like it is valued at $1 billion. As said that like we are looking at making an IPO, and yeah, this is how I started. I never saw an opportunity, it's only after doing. So I learned about the business and also the industry and the opportunity.
So tell us, I mean, thank you so much, Padmaja, but tell us from either Samir and Shantanu as well, what are some of the challenges you saw when you first started companies, as well as you? Anything that you saw that you believe was a lot more difficult, or things that you had to overcome? Any kind of interesting stories you have to share for that?
Well, I think this is probably more generic for new entrepreneurs who start companies. One of the key challenges that we initially had, which everyone has, is how do you raise capital? And one of the ways that we tried to overcome that challenge is to build a business that requires more intellectual capital than financial capital. And I think that served us very well. And if you look at our revenues today, last fiscal year we crossed 1,000 crores in revenues. Almost all of it is based on the IP that EduComp has created over the years. The second major challenge, and I think probably more important challenge, is how do you find the talent to grow your business? Because by definition, if you're a small company, good people don't want to join you unless there is something very compelling, either in the story or in the kind of risk-reward structure that you build for them. And one of the things that we did right from the very beginning in EduComp was attract a certain kind of person. So the kind of person who's probably stuck in a large company, very talented, feels it doesn't have the flexibility, has great imagination, is very innovative, and is looking for a platform to grow. So I think we built a fairly unique entrepreneurial culture, and that served as a magnet to attract some very good people, and that has served us very well. We continue to have the whole entrepreneurial human resource model to grow the company.
Samir?
Yeah, I think challenges come every day. So it's not, it's, when you start a business, it is very, very tough. It doesn't go the way which you want it to. And every day is a new day, but so I think over the years it got used to. But if you look at a few challenges and how we did a few things different was, as you said, about talent. When you have a startup organization, how do you get the best? Because I think our business or any of the business which is media is really a business of people. So if you don't get the best, there's no way that you're going to reach the scale which you want to be. So if you want to be India's number one or so, whichever way, and that was it. So I think what we did rather very starting was just get these people who were there, and as you're saying, in larger organizations, but wanting to grow, had the entrepreneurial skills, gave them ESOPs, gave them a large stock option. So, so if it succeeds, if the company succeeds, then all of them are, have been rewarded for it. And that worked out very well. So I think that was really one of the best things which we did, frankly, to that extent, where we had people who have really become, each one of them is like a semi-entrepreneur. And that's really helped the organization grow. And, in 3 years, at least the question was, how do you condense a 10-year period to a 3 or 4 years? And that's what you wanted to do. So I think that was a big one, and I think we succeeded by far to really keep that.
So both of you guys have actually talked about people as probably the most important thing in finding in India. How do you get around to trusting them? And for you, Padmaja, trusting maybe the other side of people giving you money? Because in India, the trust is actually one of the biggest elements. What do you guys think of that?
Actually, if I have to really talk about challenges, because it takes me one full day, but I will cut short. Because we have chosen to really work with poor people, which is a voting bank. The challenges were many and they were varied. So because the big problem came from money lenders, because this segment was completely served by them. So they were to be, we totally replaced them. Because some of them, they lost their employment, they were to look for alternate employment. And because it was surprisingly, some of them, they joined us as credit assistants and became branch managers because they have great experience in money lending. And but again, these guys, because they were small, because it's easy to fight with small guys. And unfortunately, since they were into unlicensed and illegal business, they were not able to fight with us legally. But again, who are the biggies? Because we were to really face several challenges. Politicians, oh God, they were crazy because it's their vote bank. They felt that because we started empowering, which is against their will. So they were so much worried about it. They thought that we are running parallel governments, and because they were so worried that because by the morning they get up at 10, they want to see at least 500 women standing in front of their house for a small loan of 5,000. They were not seeing that anymore, because it they became so egoistic. And again, because some of them, they do money lending business, and some of them they have indirect sources of it's money lenders because they give bribes to politicians because they are safeguarding their illegal businesses. So these money lenders, they went to politicians, they badmouthed about us, and the politicians because they're powerful, right? They can do anything, and particularly in India, because they just appeared on mass media, because they appeared on television, and they said that because you are taking loans from Spandana, don't repay loans, you do not know, they just cannot do anything. If they try to do anything, come to us, we will be the saviors. And and bureaucrats, in India, we have World Bank funded program, which they're also running similar kind of microfinance program. So whenever World Bank does a kind of evaluation and says that the private microfinance is growing well, the bureaucrat who is responsible for this, he became so egoistic. He never missed an opportunity to create troubles for us. And again, because competition, because I'm a lady, came up all of a sudden, and again set up new benchmarks in the industry. They are being questioned in terms of efficiency, in terms of productivity and profitability. So they were always saying that like because we are doing social work, and like because the competitors, they created enough problems. They said that like because I do not exist anymore, like because Padmaja died, so like you don't have to repay the loans. And and some of them, they said like I left for America, I made enough money, so like because the money, as if like the money belonged to me. They said that like because I left for America, I told everybody you don't have to repay the loans, you can keep money with you, like because the rumor spreaded across one time. And like because I was to prove myself that I'm Padmaja, I'm alive. So I used to really use my ID cards and whatnot, like that's competition. And again, like so in one district, like one bureaucrat, like because like he's a great man, he's like IIT, IIM and IAS. So like he's very costly, like very expensive. So like because he demanded almost like 30 million rupees bribe, like because he did like calculation like this is the business that Spandana is doing, this is the money that they're making, so like straight 10% give me, like because I could not entertain that, like because that time I was still learning microfinance. So I said no way that I can manage this, and like because all the branches of all microfinance organizations were shut down, and like because this story came up in the press saying that this bureaucrat asked for a bribe, because of which all this is happening. And like because one day 16 FIRs, like because FIRs is basically you can be arrested and put behind bars, were made against me. So like because what not, every trouble. And again like because from the family and friends, like because they became big enemies. So one big question, why are you doing this, why are you bearing the brunt of this? We don't have like economic pressures, you can be at home, like because you denied a job to work as an assistant professor, you are a crazy woman. So like because I lack support from the family, like because who is with me, and like because I have a friend, close friend, who is my right hand, like working together. She was like mentally sick, like because seeing all these attacks, and she was not as courageous, as brave as I am genetically. So like because she left the company.
So sorry to interrupt, but like just to follow up on this, so we've heard about a lot of the challenges that you guys have seen and a lot of interesting stories. So what do you think the government of India really needs to do, or the private sector, to really mitigate the challenges to promote entrepreneurial landscape in India? Anyone?
Can I?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Like because I don't think that government should be a kind of like delivery agent. They don't have to deliver anything. Let them regulate, let them supervise. There are people like who can really do these things better. So like because that's what I feel, like because as long as like they don't have to really help us, they don't have to really do a kind of great cooperation, but like as long as they don't interfere with our work, that itself is a great boon.
Yeah.
So like
Samir, anything?
No, I agree. The government has to do nothing. In fact, if it stays out of the business, that's the best it is.
So how do they actually stay in the business right now? Like what are they doing that's making it challenging then? I mean, is that what it is?
No, I mean, see, it is as what they say, they will, it's like at some point in time, each one would like to regulate. I mean, it's like what you're growing here, what you've seen here, regulation. I think there itself will also be a part that why can't we over-regulate? So it's a simple question. I think in media, frankly, technology overtook the regulations, frankly. They just didn't know what happened with internet and satellite TV. And that's why you saw it grow, and always, and now luckily media has become too strong, so they keep on trying to get you regulation, and that's what we don't want. We just don't want any regulation. We don't need any assistance from the government, no way. Right. All we want is just, they should be really looking at other stuff which the government signed, not at really coming and really helping us to do what business is.
Okay.
And I think entrepreneurship is booming right now in India, so, each one's have got ideas, and there's enough room for, as long as there's free spirit, and that, I think that's what it is. So
Okay.
I think I would say despite the government really, entrepreneurship is booming in India.
Shantanu, anything?
No, I agree with Samir and with Padmaja. The best thing the government can do is get out of the way. To give you an example, we set up schools, and it would be very difficult to argue with the value proposition of a school to society. It takes us about almost 40 clearances to actually build a school. Like, how bad can this be? And one of them is to get a no objection certificate from the local government to set up a school. And what we have seen over the years is that while at one layer India is actually liberalizing, another layer the politicians are actually taking more and more power onto themselves. So in many states, we find that this issue of this very trivial no objection certificate to setting up a school is not delegated to the municipality. It's not even delegated to the district. It's not even delegated to the bureaucracy in the education ministry. It goes right up to the education minister or the chief minister, which is simply another way to arm twist and so on. And I can give you hundreds of examples of where the government actually is a big impediment when it comes to allowing people to be entrepreneurial. And the other thing, of course, is just better infrastructure in India. I think one of the biggest challenges that entrepreneurs face today is lack of good infrastructure.
So that's a good point. So you're saying infrastructure. So if it's not government, it's infrastructure, right? What else is there? Like what else would the country need if it is not, if the government needs to stay out?
I mean, so if you leave the government aside for a while, so what is inhibiting entrepreneurship in India, if at all? I think infrastructure would be one of the really big things. I think the second thing would be access to capital. And angel networks and the venture capital community, it's a quantum leap, different today than it used to be 10 years back or 20 years back when I started my business. But it is, I think, still not enough. And Padmaja is doing a phenomenal job right at the bottom of the pyramid, providing microfinance. But today, if a young entrepreneur needs to raise 2 million rupees to start a business, it is actually not that easy to get it from the traditional banking system. So probably some thought needs to be given in that direction as well. So how do you help small and medium enterprises? Because every kind of SME cannot really be funded by the venture capital or the private equity community.
Well, for those small size investments in the US, you have angel networks or you have friends and family, those kind of things. But I guess these guys don't have access to that kind of community.
Yeah, so the whole angel network is just a drop in the ocean right now in India. And it's very, very tiny. It is growing, but entrepreneurship is growing much faster than the angel networks in India. So it's still a challenge. And the way most people try to solve this problem is really friends and family. But the amount of capital that is available in friends and family for more entrepreneurial ventures is limited. If you look at, there are two kinds of people who become entrepreneurs in India. One is if you come from a traditional business family. Well, there is a DNA of entrepreneurship there. But for first generation entrepreneurs, I think it's really tough. And I think the entrepreneurial base of India is going to be built by first generation entrepreneurs who never had any business in their family. And the challenge is really for them.
Got it. So let me just quickly run through a little bit of understanding about your business as well. Samir, in the media industry, one of the things that plague media, and for those guys who don't know, it's highly underreporting. The underreporting is a plague. You have, how much subscribers there actually are watching TV versus who's actually being reported to Z is probably 1/6 or 1/8 the amount. What do you do to change that as a company that you're in, and how does an entrepreneur exploit that as an opportunity?
Yeah, you look at it, you're right. It's like the underdeclaration is really about 90%. So it's even beyond 1/6 only. But that's where it is. But it's not piracy, so that's the good part. It's broadcaster, and the entire was agreed voluntary to give at an agreed subbase, which is roughly 1/10 of the subbase which you would know, the signal. Because why? Because it's analog. And there's a history to it. The history is that 91, when the channels came in, you had pop and mom shops. There were the entrepreneurs, they set up big satellites and set up cable. And there was no way to see when it's analog to see which home. So that's the reason that you have very low ARPU. Today you have, we give 180 channels and the ARPU is $4. So you have Star Movies, you have HBOs, you have everything. We watch EPL, we watch every single thing. And the ARPU there is $4 because everything is pushed. So India has become an advertising-driven society first. So all the channels are coming in pushing advertising. They want the reach, and the reach is being given by the platforms. So I think that is the reason. But the question is going forward naturally as channels boom stops and you come in with digitalization, and that's the opportunity. So that is the biggest opportunity for us, for everybody else, because you're saying you can't get worse. It's like interest rate being 0. You can't be worse now. You probably will go up. So now the question is, where do you go up? So will the declaration move from 10 to 50, 70, 100? But over the years, but that's all what we are chasing. So I think in the next 5 years, you would see a paradigm shift. It would be pretty high.
Got it. And for Padmaja, for microfinance, one of the things is that there isn't a credit bureau in the country. So a lot of people don't have credit histories. How do you ensure that loan losses are low? How do you ensure that you actually collect the money? I know you touched upon it a little bit. And how does the country really build a proper credit bureau system?
We are fortunate not to have all those things, like because wherever you see a failure, they have all that. So like because all personal loans, like be it like GE or cities of the world, like because they have credit bureaus, like because they have credit scoring methods, and like how they have whatnot, great IT systems, and we don't have all that. That is why we are successful. So that is why we have 100% recovery. That is why like we have 7% return on assets, and that is why like we have 60% return on equity, and that is why like because whoever has invested in our company 40 crore, 400 million in 2007, today like because the value of 40 crore has become 800 crore in 2.5 years. But like because what do? Like because since we don't have credit bureaus, we don't depend upon them. We go to people, we understand them, we evaluate their attitude, we evaluate their intention to repay, and we don't really look at cash flows. As long as people are willing to really make repay, we believe that like because the repayment comes. Microfinance, small loans, like small installments, money gets into the family system, money comes after the family system. There is a peer pressure, there is a social stigma which works extremely well. So like because I don't think that we will ever need credit bureaus. Like because everything happens, this is a banking under tree. The whole community knows that like who is taking loan and what for and how she is using. So there is a self screening, like because there is a group which is formed, they screen themselves who can be part of the group because there is a mutual guarantee. So like we don't need credit bureaus because we want to exist and continue our business.
So if you are making 60% ROE, this is very interesting, you're making 60% ROEs and you are lending to these people, what is it? Just social stigma? Like what is it? Like if I don't pay my loans back, people aren't gonna look at me favorably, and they do end up paying it back?
Actually, like because we charge about like 26%, and some of you might have read like because there were questions that like is that not high? For example, when we were not there, the money lenders were serving this particular segment. They used to give 90 rupees in the morning and collect 100 rupees. It was 10% per day. If you annualize that, like that is 3,650%. So like because if you just look at the small businesses, the volume is like very small, but the return is very high. A fish vendor, like because on a Sunday, invests like 10,000 rupees in the morning and earns about 13,000 rupees in the evening. So what is her return on equity per day? Like it's about 30%. If you annualize that, like that's about 10,000%. So when we are charging 26%, what does it mean? We are charging like 6 paisa on every 100 rupee per day, which means like on every 10,000 rupees, we are charging 6 rupee per day. When she is making 3,000 rupees, paying 6 rupee interest is nothing. What matters is availability of 10,000 in the morning to invest that as a capital and to buy fish is very, very important. This is what like the microfinance clients thoroughly understand, where there is a kind of so much of misunderstanding by every other stakeholder other than our clients and our investors who are very happy with the yield.
Wow. So, Shantanu, one thing on education, you know, what are the challenges in selling to the government? I know that you have a lot of schools where you work with the government in doing IT enablement schools, and you know, do they actually pay on time?
No, they don't pay. That's the only thing they don't do is pay on time. But there are several, I think, but we all know that that's a problem with the government, and it is a known problem. And it is not because there is, they don't have intention at the top about not paying on time. I think it is the bureaucratic systems that we have built over the years have just become so complicated. One of the things I find really strange is that the bureaucracy in India is not willing to take decisions. And nobody wants to put a signature on a file so that 10 years later, in some kind of special audit, he'll be asked, why did you authorize this payment? And I think that is killing the efficiency of the whole government bureaucratic system in India. So that's one challenge in working with the government. The second challenge in working with the government is usually not very open to new ideas. So there is a certain way that the government works, and they're just happy doing that certain way for the next 50 years. So to make them open their minds to new ways of doing things, to innovation, I think is really, really a tough nut to crack.
Okay. So just one more question, and we'll open it up for questions and answer. So one of the things in India is that, you know, let's just cut to the chase. Bribes and corruption is just a status being in India. So if we were to start a company, can we think about what percentage of my sales I'm going to be paying in bribes and corruption? And any interesting stories or things you can limelight as to where you're paying in this process and when things are getting done?
Like because we think that the government, like because it provides law and order and also justice and kinds of stuff at free of service. but it is not true. We need to really buy, like there are commodities in India. But again, like how much that you have to pay, it differs. Like there is economies of scale. So for a vegetable vendor, fruit vendor, like because he's doing his business on a road, maybe it is 10%, but in microfinance it is not 10%. We cannot afford to pay that kind of bribe. So like it is very, very insignificant. It is 0.1%, and with the growth, like you become more powerful, you can negotiate. So like because still there are bribes, but again I'm not saying that the whole government is wrong. So then like we don't really exist ourselves. Like it's only very few bureaucrats, it's only very few politicians, like because who are corrupt. It's not that everybody is corrupt, but again the police and also justice, like because still there are many reforms to come, and like because they are just like commodities. And again like because what is the cost, like because how frequently that you approach them. If you have more frauds, more thefts, then you have to pay more money. But like economies of scale, in our case, like I think it is less than 0.1% that we have to spend towards that.
And Samir, I know media can be very corrupt,
That's what
with
I'm
like
saying.
getting channels.
For us, it could be nil. It is, for us, I think, you got to realize that India, to that extent, is a great country. IT, I don't think there would be anything. So, IT, wherever there are no regulations, what's the point of a bribe? What is it? Where does it come in? It comes in only where there's regulation. You need, 40 approvals. We don't need any approval. Frankly, you just need to go, and it's compulsory when you apply for a license. If you think that can be held, no question. You get it immediately. So, and that's once in a lifetime.
But what about kickbacks, like getting channels on cable and things like that? And individuals saying, hey, I want money.
That, if you look at, that's an organization, that's employee driven. I mean, that's not. But you could be, I don't see Infosys, Wipro, I know, I know Premji and all the others doing zero. So I would say by far media, 90% would be zero, really, or 95%, frankly. So luckily we've, I'm saying, so that's the great part of India, that you can do IT enabled, you can do media, there are a lot of things which you do, where it is zero. So you are actually as professional as anywhere in the world.
But again, the local media is so corrupt. I'm sorry to say this.
Fine. I mean,
like as a press reporter, if you go to a village in India, like he is the richest person in the India. Like because he earns about 1,000 rupees per month, but like because his net worth will be 1 crore. Where is the money coming from? Like because he can just blackmail anybody. Like because if you go to CNBC, like because it's totally different. But if you go to like Enadu kind of local newspaper, the local village reporter, like because he can just dictate terms, he can blackmail you, saying that like because I will write an article saying that Padmaja doesn't exist anymore tomorrow. Like because, but I cannot really put like because my 4,000 crore business at stake. So like because with the media, like because they created all kinds of problems for the microfinance for a simple reason that we did not really entertain them with all kinds of bribes, because we were busy doing our own work, the so-called relationship management, the so-called PR, we did not do with them. So it's not at a very higher level, it's not at a kind of like a national level, but at a regional level, at the village level, at the block level, it's completely corrupt. So Samir, they can kill you.
So Samir, what do you have to say to that?
Media is blamed for all the ills in the society. I think that's true. So that's it. You'll always be blamed. We are blamed by the government. You'll be blamed by people. But that's the way it is. Yeah, I mean, that is media. So it's, everywhere. So, some parts could be more, some parts could be less. But I think, it's evolving. I think frankly, it depends. We run channels like CNN and the others. So, that part of media is different. Some parts could be good. But that's evolving. It's growing. So I think it will change. I mean, you look at it. I don't think but eventually it'll move the global way.
We have one regional, like which is the largest circulated newspaper in Andhra Pradesh, and they have a chit fund business. They got badly hit because of microfinance program, and like because they have a tool in their hands, right, like newspaper, and like because every day, like because they increased the font size of headline for the sake of Spandana, like because by 200%, like because we got like free publicity for whatever the reason it is, and like because they said that like because the person like who was not able to repay the loan, like because committed suicide. When I asked the branch manager, is this true? Oh, this morning like she repaid her loan. But again, like because the newspaper gets circulated to like few lakhs of people, how many people that I can go to and tell that like this is not true, that lady is surviving. So that's media.
Okay. What about non-media, Shantanu? I mean, what is some corruption? Yeah.
I think corruption, yes, does it exist? I think absolutely it does. But is it possible for an entrepreneur to build a clean business? I think the answer is yes too. It's really a matter of personal choice. And I think there are some industries which are old industries. So let's say if you were in the liquor business, you're in the road construction business, some other kinds of businesses, probably corruption has become more institutionalized in those businesses. But like Samir said, some of the new media businesses, the new age businesses, I think are relatively free of corruption, and probably because the government or the system still haven't understood how to extract money from some of these new businesses.
But I don't agree that like it is a personal choice. As a personal choice, no entrepreneur wants to really bribe anybody, right? Like, because at the end of the day, like, it's integrity and it's losing money. But again, like, because when you really grow to a scale, like, because you have the responsibility of like surviving the organization. So like you cannot really say that like, because I cannot give you 1 rupee, but again, like I cannot really put like my 12,000 staff at the stake. I have the responsibility, right? Like, it's not a personal choice, like, because we fought, and I did not achieve anything, like, because there was no reward, there was no honor, nothing. But again, like, because you cannot fight, like, because you have several other responsibilities. So if you are bribing means, like, because if I am admitting that, like, because here and there we are giving small bribes, it's definitely not my personal choice, like, because as a responsibility to safeguard and sustain the organization, of course, yes, we are bribing.
So, I mean, what I see corruption is, you're right, there's a little bit of corruption that happens on the top end, but really India, democratizes everything, including corruption, right? So everyone gets a say in, what kind of money they get. So do you guys see that in your business, where the middle and low tier, where it's just kind of an unsaid truth, you just kind of have to give them money or give them a gift or something to make things happen? And if so, like, what are they?
Well, it depends on how you also define corruption. So I think giving a Diwali gift, I don't think is considered corruption in India. It is like part of social norm or custom. It might be treated, I think, probably different in this part of the world. But to keep your stakeholders or the people who you work with on a day-to-day basis kind of happy so that they feel good about the company they're dealing with, I don't think that would be corruption. I think paying a bribe in my personal definition would be something very different.
Okay.
It so much depends upon how dynamic and how powerful and how capable that person who is seeking the bribe. So even to bribe also, like, because one needs dynamism, right? Yep. So like, it's not common across, like, because there are few dynamic bureaucrats, like, because who are considered, like, who are promoted by getting like very well recognized that he's a great person who can collect bribes and increase the revenue streams of the government and the politicians. So like, because it so much depends upon the dynamism and the creation, like, because it's not an easy thing to accept like crores and crores of bribes.
So really quick, just, I know that you guys are, thank you so much. So one of the things that I've noticed is you guys are all in different industries, but if you had to pick a business that you could start today and help the audience in thinking about new businesses, except for the one that you're in today, what kind of industry or business would you want to do? Shantanu?
I'd love to do Padmaja's business, actually. 60%,
Okay.
60% return on equity.
True.
That's a fantastic business.
It's on an average, like, because I got like 200% return on equity when my net worth was
even better.
Okay, so you want to be
It's a double
microfinance.
bottom line.
But I think it's, speaking more generically, I think it's, one of the things that I see happening when we go and open schools in some of these rural areas, or small towns, we see this amazing desire and this aspirational desire amongst the people who are entering middle class for the first time. So I think building products and services for that class of people, I think, can be extremely rewarding, whether it is built around healthcare, for instance, or education, of course. That's the business that I do. I think that's a underserved market segment that people should be looking at.
Okay. Samir?
Agreed. I think at the end of the day, it's your core competence, and so really, I don't know, one will be competent to start any other business than what you know about. But I think the big thing is, or the big thing in India which is changing, and if you see it in cable, and that's how when we go down and we see, is small towns really doing very, very well. And I think that was really the fact that when the recession hit here, in India, the recession really wasn't there except in big towns and the media, frankly. It was there more in the media and Delhi, Bombay, and big industrialists. But small towns, nothing had happened. If you go down to Meerut and small other towns, there's huge growth. And you go down, like I've been going down to these towns, and you see every day a new mall. You see PVRs, and you see the houses are getting better. You just see that, and you're amazed by the amount of wealth which is happening. That's real wealth. So anything which is to really exploit this burgeoning middle class, which is through whichever way, whether it's education, domestic consumption, whichever it is, and healthcare services, or even manufacturing. I think that is where the next 5 or 10 years will be the real opportunity.
Okay. Padmaja, besides
Yeah,
microphone?
I'm a crazy woman. Like I would like to start everything that I see. If I go to a movie theater, I feel like setting up a movie theater. If I go to a mall, like I feel like setting up a mall. But again, like God is equally crazy, right? Like because He has given us a brain, like because the container is so big, like if you start pouring, it will absorb anything. But again, he's equally crazy, like because biologically He made us in a way that like we have to sleep 8 hours every day. That is my big problem. Like because every day I think that how come that like He has not created in a way that like because 8 hours sleep is more than enough per annum. So that like because you can really do many things, like because but what is the time, like because 23 years we have spent like because going to schools learning about amoebas, hibiscus, cannabinus, trypanosoma, gambiancy. I never used all that stuff in my life, right? Like it's gone. And then like because what is the productive age, like it is another 20 years, and 1/3 you just sleep, and 1/3 like you have other things, so called work life balance and all that, and you have 8 years. What is that you can do? But again, of course, I'm really doing several things like besides microfinance, and I'm doing institutional trading today, like because I realized that like it's not that I should always look at like increasing the revenue of my clients. I can also reduce the expenditure of my clients because I have the number and network. I went to Wipro. I told them like because I can buy 1 crore soaps per annum for my clientele. There is no distributor, there is no dealer, there is no wholesaler. You don't have to spend a single rupee on the publicity. What is the discount that you can offer to me? Straight away 30%. So like because I went to several other manufacturers. So today I'm just sourcing all producers in bulk, and I'm selling to my own borrowers at a very discounted price. That is one business. And microfinance is like very well proven. Today I have 48 banks lending to me, and I borrowed 12,500 crore without even a single rupee collateral. Like because if I want to raise money, like because I get at least like 30 term sheets in 15 days time. We have a different problem, good problem to have. We are flushed with monies. But again, like because what is to be proved for this particular segment, healthcare, people need like access to healthcare. So right now, like because I'm setting up hospitals, and basically not to build hospitals but to build a model that poor people can afford to pay for healthcare service, provided like because the quality is good, provided it is reasonably priced. So right now I'm busy in setting up maternity hospitals in Hyderabad, and also this marketing stuff. But again, like I have several things to do, but fortunately, like because the age is something that cannot be rewinded.
Sure.
So if I can ask God for one thing, I will ask Him to rewind my age. But I don't think that I can get it.
Okay, so with that, we'll open it for Q&A.
In India, there are places which do not have, forget about access to computers and internet, they are not even accessible by public transport.
Yeah.
How do you foresee Educom helping those areas? And a related question is, have you seen advanced, like internet getting used in rural areas or in last few years, and where do you foresee internet getting used in rural areas? And sorry, I would like another question. I'd like to ask another question. There is a lot of advancement in the educational areas all across the world, wherein MIT and Harvard are publishing all their courses online. Even for that matter, IITs are doing it. Where do you see Educom aligning to open learning and open educational resources concept of these two concepts?
Okay, let's take all the three questions serially. So firstly, how can you help areas which is very difficult geographical terrain, they're not roads and so on. We're already there. Actually, if you look at, we run 15,500 IT labs in schools. Many of these places do not have electricity. They do not have pakka school buildings. They do not have roads. So we have actually taken hand-carried computers across streams, across ditches, set them up there, fixed a generator or something that generates solar power, and got these things up and running. Why is it important to have IT there, even if you don't have a school building? The reason is that IT is a huge leveler, because you will never get the right teacher to go and teach in a place that doesn't have a school building and doesn't have a road. So how do you level the playing field with a student that is in Mumbai and a student that is in some rural area? You can only do that by bringing digital content, which in a sense replaces the teacher. So that's already happening. There's huge return, non-financial return on capital when you do that. Learning standards immediately go up. And one of the biggest challenges in Indian education is this whole question of dropouts. So people enroll for education, and by the 3rd or the 4th grade, almost 50% drop out because they have no reason to go to school. So when you put up this IT lab in the school, all of a sudden they have a reason to go to school. And they know that if they pick up these IT skills, they can go to a small town and actually get a job. Second question, what about the usage of internet? It's very low right now, but I would bet a lot of money on the fact that India will become one of the largest users and consumers of internet. Specifically for education, I think that pipe into the home is going to be an extremely important delivery vehicle, especially because there's no other way to access. It takes much more time and much more capital to build infrastructure than to put wireless broadband. And now that you have 3G auction that just happened and wireless broadband that's happened, I think we are in for a major exponential revolution in internet usage in India. Three, your question was about Harvard and MIT are publishing courseware on the web. My personal view is higher education is not about the courseware. It is about the branding and reputation. So if IITs today published all the courses on the web, do you think the number of students who apply to IITs is actually going to go down? I don't think it's going to go down. Have the business models of the Harvards and MITs being impacted because they published all the courseware on the web? No. I think higher education is more about branding. It's more about having that stamp, and that is going to stay forever.
Next question. Yep.
How do you see the smartphone?
Yeah.
How do you see the smartphone affecting the learning in India?
I think it's going to have a huge impact on learning, not just in India, but actually worldwide. So if you look at the way society has structured education by putting 35, 40, in India even 50 or 60 kids in one classroom, that unit of learning is fundamentally dysfunctional because biologically every child has a different learning style. There's a different pace at which a child will learn. So you put one teacher who's teaching to many kids at the same time, there are bound to be huge learning issues. And then people try to solve those learning issues by going to tutoring, coaching, mentoring, or they fall off the charts and so on. The holy grail, I think what the whole education system has been trying to find for a long time is how can you make the child learn at his own pace? And putting a device in the hands of the child, whether it's a smartphone or it's a tablet PC or it's a netbook, is partially, I think, going to solve that problem. So the next major technology intervention inside schools is going to be the child carrying a device. Now the challenge is how do you build the pedagogical systems, because the world does not know how to deal with every child learning at his own pace inside the classroom. I think it's a challenge, and I think there are companies, at least EduComp is thinking very seriously about how to build new pedagogical learning systems that can allow a teacher to deal with 40 kids in the classroom and all of them have a device and are learning at their own pace. The role of the teacher fundamentally will have to change from being what you call metaphorically a sage on the stage to a guide on the side. But I think that revolution is also coming.
Next question.
Thank you all. That was a really lovely presentation by all of you. I know some of you talked about, you all talked about corruption and dealing with corruption in your respective industries. And I was just wondering if you could give some thoughts or advice on US entrepreneurs that are looking to do business in India, having to deal with US laws such as foreign corrupt practices, and what thoughts or advice you have on US entrepreneurs that are doing business in India to prevent that.
I think if you're in the intellectual business, it is much more simpler. I think you can actually do business, I do believe, and maybe I'm wrong and I may be in the minority in India without really being corrupt or being any of this. You could. I can understand each business will have a different need, but there are lots of the businesses where there are really hardly any excise duties. Anything in intellectual capital with services and all, the government intervention and regulation is very, very low. So I really feel in the new generation today that you could actually set up a business in India and hold your head high. And a lot of people are doing that. And so I think that's the way. But it may take you a little bit longer, but that's fair enough. I think one has to go through the grind, and you do that. And then you've got to be smarter. I think if you're really looking at coming into India and you need some approvals, I think there are very smart legal officers who will assist, who've got relationships. Who'll do it. I think the systems have been done where actually you can really come into India and really do business and not be really that bothered about corruption. There would be, things where you need approvals instead of 40, maybe 10 approvals. You know, there will be cases where there are 5 or 10 approvals. I think the big thing is patience when you do a business in India. Don't think that your approvals will come in a day. If you're willing to wait 6 months, 1 year, they will come in. So I think that's where it is. But you know, that's the price of saying either be corrupt or be saying wait 6 months, 1 year. You know, hire the best and that's it. So I think that is where it is. I do believe that. I don't know, and I know you hear stories and we know that it's a fact. So it's not only hear story, it's a fact, but you know, that's the price of doing business. But I think you could do it depending on the nature of the business that you are in.
Yeah, I'm in a mass market, like because where I need police on a day-to-day basis, like because we carry cash and like there are frauds and there are thefts and all kinds of things. But again, like because look at the higher level, like for example, licensing, like because we are licensed by Reserve Bank of India. I'm like surprised and like it is an admiring institution, like which is an independent. So like because I never thought that like because they're so easily accessible and like the level of integrity is very high, honesty is very high, like because they're extremely helpful, and it took like just 1 month for me to get the license to really do this business. And again, like today I told you that like because I raised about like 12,500 crore from different banks. These banks include private sector banks, public sector banks. There was never a single case where like I gave a single rupee bribe to any banker to give me the loan. And like because there is no borrower like because who took like because who asked some bribe like so that she is taking a loan. So it's not that like bribing like because the corruption is so rampant, but again like because you cannot really transform the whole society in one single day. Things are really changing like because they are making much more simpler, and like because I think that like this is India is a great place for any entrepreneur to really start anything, like because you have people and you have like of course people are like very patient, they are very dynamic, they are very enterprising, and like because we have great women like who have reached heights.
So I agree with you that English is important in India for several reasons, and one of the biggest economic benefits of learning English, especially if you are talking about trade skills at the bottom of the pyramid, is that the person who knows English, his income is typically double of somebody who doesn't know English. So there's a great incentive for people to learn English, whether they are stewards in hotels or they are drivers or there are other kinds of trade skills. Is English or is a huge problem in terms of communication? Yeah, I think the answer is it is a huge problem. For many years, English language wasn't a big market in India because there wasn't a big services sector in India. In the past 10 years, you've had this exponential growth in the services sector, which has led to a demand for English language training. EduComp has a joint venture with a company called Pearson, which is the largest, among other things, the largest English language training company in the world. And we have several programs that help teach English at different levels, from business English to English for trade skills and so on. And I think this is going to be an important factor. In most people who get rejected in jobs, they don't get rejected because they don't know the subject. They get rejected because they can't talk straight a few sentences in English.
One more question?
Padmaja, can you talk about your decision to go public? And one more question actually, what's your loan acceptance rate?
Yes, we are planning to go to public, like because the major objective is like I don't want to limit like all the benefits to few smart investors, like because I would like to really share this benefit to the Indian public. That is the objective, and I want to really broad base the ownership, and I want to really diversify the funding sources. So we are planning to really go for make an IPO in the next 9 months. So of course it's a market factor. And what was your next question? I'm sorry. Loan acceptance rate, yeah. What does it mean?
Meaning of the loans that you give, how many of them accept your loan?
Oh, like basically like because it's only people like who want a loan will approach us. So like because we go to the low income households, like because where poor people live. So out there like because the take up, like because in village like the take up will be like almost 90%, but whereas in urban areas sometimes like because we have a criteria. So in a group of 10 it is like 5 out of 10 should have their own house. So like we also eliminate people. The hit rate is like little low in urban areas, whereas in rural like it is about 90-95%.
Sorry, did you mean approval rate? Yes. Okay.
Yeah, your approval rate, as I told you, like it is self-screening. Like we don't identify the clients. We ask women to form into groups, like because they select the women who can be part of their group, because they are giving guarantee for the loan. So basically, like, because it is depending upon the attitude, depending upon the family discipline, but again, like, these things are like very positive in rural compared to urban, like, because in terms of like because they don't skip the work in rural areas, but whereas in urban areas, like, they are not very disciplined. So considering all these factors, there is a variation between rural and urban. So in urban, rural the hit rate is 90-95, but whereas in urban the hit rate is like say 40-50%.